Hello, and welcome to CIF 45 Streams Filmmaker Conversations. I'm Mallory Martin. I'm the Artistic Director for the Cleveland International Film Festival. We want to give special thanks to PNC for sponsoring our Filmmaker Conversations content throughout the festival. On today's special Q&A, we'll be joined by guests from the animated family film Daisy Quokka, World's Scariest Animal. I'm pleased to introduce director Ricard Cusso, who also happened to direct the other two films in the animated Tales from Sanctuary City trilogy, the CIF 44 animated favorite, The Wishmas Tree, which was the first film, and then the second film in the trilogy, Combat Wombat. Thank you for joining us today, Ricard.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And we also have actress Angary Rice joining us as well, who was a voice actor for Daisy Quokka herself, not to mention starring in films such as Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man Far From Home, The Nice Guys with Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling, lucky you, and Sofia Coppola's The Beguiled with Nicole Kidman and Colin Farrell. Welcome to you both. We're so thrilled to have you both here.
Thanks. I'm so excited to be here.
Towards the end of the Q&A, we'll be joined by some extra special guests as well to ask a few questions. But in the meantime, let's get started. So first and foremost, please tell me that I'm saying Quokka correctly.
Yeah, I think you're doing it good. We would say Quokka.
Quokka. Okay.
Quokka.
I feel like maybe I'll have it down by then. Okay. I might have it down. Okay, so Ricard, I want to start with you and ask you to speak a little bit about the Sanctuary City trilogy, how you got involved, the origin of the story, and the success of each of the three films, both in Australia and overseas.
Yeah, so Universal Pictures approached Leica Photon, the production company that produced the three films, with the idea of creating this franchise, almost Marvel-esque, where the main protagonists are Australian animals and Australian locations. So we came up with 10 different ideas, all ranging from genre and types of characters. And the three they selected to go ahead was The Wishmas Tree, Combat Wombat, and Daisy Quokka. And Daisy Quokka is an underdog sports film that has this little quokka that is pursuing her dream to become the world's scariest animal, which seems like an impossible feat.
And you did them pretty quickly. I think you were saying before that you shot, or all three of them were done within a year?
It was crazy. We actually created a animation studio just to make these films, and it was all in the space of within 2 years. So it's been a crazy ride. So yeah, there were times that we were doing the three films at the same time, like one in post, one in production, one in pre, and it was mental, but it was great fun.
That's great. And Gary, you've acted alongside some pretty big Hollywood names, including in this film with Sam Neill being the voice of Frankie Scales, which was awesome. Was this your first time doing voice acting for animation, or have you had experience with it before?
Yeah, no, it was my first time doing voice acting, which was different. It was a different challenge. I was quite nervous, but Ricard was a great director and guided me in the right direction. I was nervous because, you know, it's so much about the energy. You have to put all your emphasis and energy into your voice. You can't rely on, you know, just like very subtle visual things. So yeah, it was a different challenge. The first day, it was all about getting the energy up because I was too quiet, I guess. And like, I just wasn't used to putting that much energy into it. But yeah, it was a really fun challenge and it was a different process, but so exciting, like so exciting to try something new.
So I've always wondered with animation, do you have the voice actors in the same room at the same time to be, you know, feeding off of each other, or were you recording them separately? How did it work for you guys?
So for me, oh, sorry.
No, you go. You got it.
I was going to say that for me, like I was super separate from everyone else because I was in America at the time. So Ricard actually flew out. I was in Philadelphia and Ricard flew out to Philadelphia. And so we recorded for 3 days in freezing cold Philly. So I was very separate from everyone else.
And what is that like? I mean, did you had somebody else, I'm assuming, reading the lines with you, or were you literally just doing
was doing it.
Okay.
It was great.
That's great.
He was fantastic, as all the other characters.
That's great. That's awesome. Okay, so for both of you, Daisy Kwaka's tale is obviously all about living your dream. Did you both dream of making movies when you were young? And how did you find your way to the big screen? Ricard, you want to start?
Yeah, I've been brought up in a family which is very artistic. I've got musician uncles and voiceover cousins and sculpture, and it's been always in the family and the stage. But growing up, I was actually very shy. Like I love the idea of being on screen, on stage, but I just couldn't do it. But I got older and I turned 18 and said, this is actually what I want to do. So I started as an actor and studied as an actor, and then slowly got the idea that I just want to have a bit more creative input and create. So that's when I took the step behind the camera and actually studied live action, and did for a lot of my training was in live action and my experience. And then for whatever reason, animation came along and it just kind of worked and it fitted, and it was like the right project at the right time. And definitely a dream come true. I mean, being able to work with such amazing and talented people, it's always been a dream. So yeah, I think that I'm pretty happy.
So what was your first animated film? Was it Wish Mystery, or did
Wish Mystery was my first my debut feature and animation. Yeah.
Well, congrats. You did a really great job. All three films are really great. Yeah. And Gary, what about you? Did you always want to be an actress?
Yeah, I mean, similar to Ricard, I grew up in a family of artists. My parents both worked in theatre, and so, growing up, the theatre world was quite small, and we were friends with agents and actors, and so yeah, when I was young, my sister and we were friends with an agent, and she signed us. She was like, "It'll be fun. We'll just see what happens." And my sister very quickly realized that it wasn't for her. She just didn't enjoy it, so she stopped. But I loved it, and I kept going, and I was lucky that a short film I did got turned into a feature and went to a film festival. So yeah, I always wanted to perform, like, even because I grew up in that environment, so performing was just part of like my life, and I always loved it. And so yeah, I feel so fortunate that I get paid to do it now, and this is my job. Like, I feel so fortunate. So yeah, it has always been a dream of mine, for sure.
That's great. So how old were you when you were in your first film?
My first feature, I was 11. So I remember like doing school on the weekends. Yeah, I kind of grew up on sets, doing school on set and then coming home and doing school when I wasn't working. So yeah, it's been a big part of my life.
Yeah, that's great. That's wonderful. So Ricard, has the pandemic affected movie theaters and releases in Australia like it did in the States? We were talking about that a little bit before jumping on here too. The States, definitely some movie theaters are open, still socially distanced, not drawing the crowds yet that they were previously, but it sounds like things are a little bit better in Australia. And I know that Broadway especially has had like quite the revival over there recently. So if you want to talk a little bit about how things are going in the movie industry over there now.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been quite lucky in Australia, especially in Queensland where I am, where we haven't suffered as much. But in saying that, in terms when it comes to the industry, I think that we're still getting the repercussions of the States. I think that the market in Australia is quite small. So all we get is, most of our content comes from overseas, where they've actually been suffering quite a lot. So, cinemas have been open since last year, but there's very limited releases. There's not that much coming up. I think that there's only been a couple big blockbusters, but other than that, it is giving opportunity for smaller films to kind of come through. But I just personally, I don't think there's that many people yet going into the cinemas, and not because of the COVID, but because there's just not really much advertisement for this smaller films.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I wonder that too with the States, is even when people are going to feel comfortable going back to movie theaters, if it's going to take the entire industry, you know, a beat to catch up in terms of advertising and what movies are going to be available at that time. But I do think that, you know, we're getting closer. I feel like we are all seeing the horizon a little bit. And I know personally at the festival, we cannot wait to be in person again. And you know, in another universe, we'd be able to bring you both to the festival in person, and hopefully you keep making films so that we can do that in the future. And Gary, speaking of the pandemic within the entertainment industry, you're about to have a huge premiere on April 19th in HBO's Mayor of Easttown alongside Kate Winslet and Guy Pearce, which is awesome. So congrats on that. And this was shot in Pennsylvania during the pandemic, correct?
Yeah, well, we started before everything shut down. we started filming in late 2019. And that was actually when I recorded Daisy Crocker, was when I was in Philadelphia filming that. So on my days off, I went into the recording studio and I was Daisy Crocker, which was so much fun. Oh my gosh, because Daisy Crocker is so positive and happy, and Mayor of Easttown is quite a dark show, so it was a nice bit of relief. But yeah, we had to shut down production in March, exactly a year ago now, and we went back in September of 2020. We all flew back from wherever we were isolating at the time, me being all the way in Australia, and yeah, filmed the last part of the show during the pandemic, which was very different.
Can you talk a little bit more maybe about what that was like? I mean, did you guys, were you wearing masks on set other than when you were having speaking parts? And
yeah, so it was quite impressive how quickly everyone adapted, actually, because, you know, film sets, it's so much about the community and the people, and that's so hard when you have to kind of rewire the way that you work. Right. So yes, we had masks. Anyone who, you know, ideally the only time we weren't wearing masks was when the cameras were rolling. And anyone who had to touch the actors or be close to the actors not wearing masks had to wear like full PPE. We were all getting tested every day. So they were very safe about it. And they had, like, I was worried that everyone would kind of be resistant to it, because it is asking a lot of people to change the way you work, and to ask people to not go out on the weekends, like to ask people to have their whole lives in this work bubble. But I think people were just so excited to get back to work. Like, we'd gone, you know, 6-7 months with the whole entertainment industry shutting down. I think it was like, yeah, we will make this happen in the safest way possible, in order for us to do what we love. So that kind of spirit and, I guess, attitude was really encouraging to see.
That's great. Yeah. And I think, you know, obviously the entire world, but also, you know, entertainment industry has been hit pretty hard by this in the last year. But I love what you said, just in terms of, you know, doing whatever you can in order to keep doing what you love. So I'm really glad that you were able to do that. And I'm excited to see all of the work that still came out of this last year. So it'll be interesting, you know, making movies is hard work, but making movies during a pandemic is a lot harder. So. So Ricard, is this the end of the story for Sanctuary City with the end of the trilogy, or do you see more tales in the future?
We hope not. I think that we're currently actively working on bringing the next one to the screens. I think that there's so many stories to tell. I think that Australia has been lacking in animation for quite a while. There hasn't been that many Australian releases. So I think that for Australian audiences to see themselves represented on screen and hear their voices, and at the same time serve as the international market and grow the idea that Australia is not only koalas and kangaroos, and, you know, especially like quokkas. It was an animal that I don't think that many people outside of Australia knew what a quokka is. So I think that having the opportunity to tell stories with these very unique characters, and that not everything in Australia is out to kill you. I think there's good stories to tell there. So yeah, so we really hope that we can keep continuing making these films and telling these stories in the Tales from Sanctuary City world.
That's great. And yes, so for anybody watching that doesn't know what a quokka is, I encourage you to Google that, because they are in fact very cute animals, but maybe very scary as well. But yeah, so well, without further ado, I'd like to bring on our special guests. I'm pleased to introduce my nephews, Lachlan and Sayer, and my niece Nev, along with my own 2-year-old. We were all very lucky enough to watch Daisy Quokka together. And I must say it was the quietest that I'd ever seen this crew at once. So well done to both of you for entertaining them. So I think first out, we're going to start, I think we're going to go oldest to youngest maybe. So I think we're going to start with my nephew, Lach, first, who drafted some questions for the both of you. So Lach, take it away.
My name is Lachlan, and I have 3 questions. The first one is, how did you think of the idea for the movie?
That's a very good question, Lachlan. Thank you. So a couple of years ago, there was this big selfie quokka phenomenon where big celebrities like Chris Hemsworth and Margot Robbie, like they went to Rottnest Island in Perth, and they would just take these selfies with quokkas, which they seem to be like the most adorable, the most photogenic animals in the world, because they seem to be smiling anytime you take a photograph. So that gave us this really good idea about, okay, if we create this into our universe, and what does that look like? And creating this like tourist attraction where it's an island lived by quokkas, and tourists come and take photos with them. And then having this one quokka that wants something completely different, which is being the world's scariest animal. Like, can we achieve that the smilest, happiest animal in the world becomes the most, like, the scariest animal and wins the scariest game? So that's where the story originated from.
I like the movie because of all the characters in there. My favorite character was the Komodo dragon from like that Fireland, one of the players. And I have a question. What was your guys' favorite character?
Well, thank you for the question, Lachlan. Great question. My favorite character, like by far, is the Drop Bears. They are so funny and they're so cute. It's like that's a kind of joke that you play on anyone who travels to Australia. You say, "Oh, beware! There are drop bears out in the woods. They're going to drop down and, like, come into your tent." And they're not really real, but you trick people into thinking they're real. So it was so exciting for me to see this like cute but kind of menacing version of the Drop Bears in this animated film. They were like by far my favorite. What about you, Ricard?
Mine's a bit biased. Like same as you, Lachlan. Drago is one of my favorite, next to Augustus the Toad, the big toad that is the commissioner, the president of the games. Mostly by the fact because I voiced both characters, so I think I'm a bit. I just think they're very fun to play, especially Augustus the Toad. He's a recurring character in all the franchises, and it's someone that everyone loves. So we keep giving him more, like, a bigger role. So he started like a warden in the swamps, and then he went to a security officer, and now is the president of the game. So who knows what he will be in the on the 4th film.
Come on to this. Do you want to come up a little bit closer?
And this is Sayer. Sayer's going to have a couple questions too.
Do you want to say hi? Hi, my name is Sayer.
Hi.
Do you want to ask your questions, honey?
Okay, I'm going to help you real quick. How do the people become the animals.
You're asking how do the people, the actors, become the animals? Is that what you're asking? Yeah.
That's a good question.
You go, Gary. You got that one.
Well, the funny thing about voicing Daisy is that I grew up in Perth, which is where the quokkas are native. So I grew up going to Rottnest Island, which is where the quokkas live, and I would see them in the summer holidays. So voicing Daisy for me, I felt like I knew the quokkas because I had grown up like living close by to them. So I think that helped me. And also what helped me was the strange coincidence that Daisy has the same hair as me. She has this like cute, like blonde hair on top. And at the time of recording, it was exactly the same as my hair. So I think that's what helped me kind of become the character, if that answers your question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How did they pick you to be the actress?
Can I hear that question again?
How did you get picked to be the actress?
How did I get picked? Well, I was lucky. In that Ricard picked me. I got sent the script, and when I got sent the script, I read it through, and I just thought it was so fun and delightful, and I thought this is what I've always wanted to see, because growing up when I was your age, we didn't have animated movies with Australian animals, and so when I read the script, I was like, this is what I wanted to see when I was younger. I wanted to see Australian actors playing Australian animals. So I was lucky in that I got picked. I don't know, maybe Ricard has more insight.
I mean, we were lucky to have you. I think that when we were writing Daisy, we had wanted to work with you for quite some time, and there was so many similitudes with you and Daisy. I think that the energy and the optimism and like just this bubble of life that you brought in, and then the Chua, it just matched perfectly to Daisy. So, you know, we were recording in Philadelphia, and it was like having actually Daisy Quokka in the booth, because it was meant to be. So we were really happy to lucky to have Gary with us.
Yeah. So we picked each other.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sayer. All right, and we've got one more. This is Nev. Nev is 3 years old, and you loved the Daisy Quokka movie too, didn't you, Nevi?
Did you like the movie? Yeah.
Do you have questions that you want to ask, Eddie?
Are you ready to ask a question? Okay, say a little bit louder.
No. I'll ask your question. Do you want me to ask your question for you?
Do you want to ask?
Nev.
Have you ever what? Have you ever?
I'll ask it for you, honey. That's okay. So Nev, she sent me her questions earlier today. And well, there were two questions. One, which I think you kind of answered one of them already, which is, where are all the quokkas? And the other question that she had for you both was, have you ever touched a quokka in real life?
I haven't. I haven't been. Yeah, unfortunately. We wanted to go and do a trip just to get some reference for the film, but COVID happened. So unfortunately, we weren't able to do that trip. But my sister lives in Perth, so I owe her a visit. So eventually, when we're able to travel again, we'll go and visit and see the quokkas as well.
I have never touched a quokka. I've seen them, but they ask you to not touch them because, you know, they're just living their life. But I did, when I went to Rottnest Island, I was maybe about like 7 or 8, and I went into there was a restaurant on the island, and we went there and had dinner, and I heard something move, and I looked under my chair, and through the open doors, a quokka had come in and was sitting under my chair. And I looked and I went, oh my gosh, there's a quokka under my chair. And it looked at me and it just kind of ran away. It was like, sorry to interrupt. I'm just gonna leave now. So that was the closest I came, I think, without even me knowing.
That's great. And you didn't know that one day you would play one at that point either.
I had no idea. Maybe it was a sign.
Right. That's great. All right. Well, I just want to thank you, Lachlan, Sayer, and Nev, for being such amazing question askers. You're all allowed to fill in for me anytime that you want. So just let me know. Thanks, guys. And I want to thank you, Ricard and Gary, so much for sharing your time with us today and for sharing your film with our audience. We wish you both the best of luck, and hopefully we'll get to see each other in person one day too.
Thank you so much for hosting. This was lovely. And thank you for the questions from the kids. It was so nice.
Thank you so much for having us. We're really excited for audiences to see the film. And we hope that they enjoyed as much as we did making it.
Great. All right. Well, lastly, I just want to thank our audience, too, for joining us for today's Q&A. We wouldn't be here without your ongoing support to bring film home. Please consider supporting our challenge match presented by Cuyahoga Arts and Culture to support the future of our festival. Our goal is to reach $145,000 this year, and we're so grateful for any amount that you're able to contribute. To donate, purchase tickets, or check out our full schedule of filmmaker conversations like this one, please visit clevelandfilm.org. With that, please stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.